Nebraska Preps postgame with Damon Benning and Jacob Padilla.
That's a big voice guy. It's one of my favorite times of the week. If nothing else, at least Jacob can talk me off the ledge, right? Mr. Calm, cool, and collected. Although, being a Suns fan, that may not be the guy to talk to. How you been, man?
I'm feeling a lot better after last night than I was a few days ago. That's for sure.
That's 2 in a row. Apparently, the Lakers can't play without AD. Got the heart of a champion. I mean, what is really going on?
Well, the Lakers can't shoot. The Suns know they can't shoot, and they're daring them to shoot. So you're seeing 4 bodies in the paint every time LeBron comes off the screen. So
champs on the brink of elimination. Coach K set to retire after the 21-22 season. What else we got?
Boston Celtics stuff. Brad Stevens taking Danny Ainge's job and Danny Ainge retiring.
Yeah, I tell you what. I don't know if they missed their window, but with all they had stockpiled, and yes, they got Tatum and Jaylen Brown. But you got to have more to show for it than that, don't you?
Well, I mean, you see what Brooklyn's on the brink of doing right now, and they decide, hey, we're going to go all in, and they made the move for Harden. Boston had opportunities to potentially make all-in moves throughout this entire stretch of Stevens and Ainge together, and they never would do it. And
really didn't have a superstar to build around. Yeah. So once they did it and stockpiled the picks, at some point, once you know that you have Tatum and Jaylen Brown, you probably have to make a move and stop hoarding picks, right?
Yeah, there were a couple.
And
of
that's not
things.
even hindsight. You don't think?
No, I mean everybody was clowning Ainge in the moment, especially because it seems like always they were so close to making this move, and you heard that basically after every single trade deadline, and they never would do it. They kept holding on to those assets, and now here they are, kind of falling back to the bottom half of the playoff picture and barely limping into the postseason, and now they're done after one round.
Yeah, 2 historic franchises. Although one is off the verge, one is off of winning a championship, but they could, both teams, one already has in the Celtics. Lakers could go out with a whimper.
Oh, and then you got the Knicks potentially bowing out in the first round after the season they had. And
so you know what's funny about the Knicks? The Knicks, I feel, are a lot like the Heat. Kind of caught lightning in a bottle, but for the most part, they are who they are.
Yeah.
Right? Struggle to score. Yep. Really good defense. Julius Randle had a anomaly-type year.
Yeah.
Kind of reverting back to the mean. I mean, that's kind of who the Knicks are, right?
Yep. And unfortunately for the Knicks, that happened in the postseason, whereas Miami's Lightning, they caught the Lightning in the postseason last year and made that run. So worst possible time for kind of reversion to happen. But here we are. They can't guard Trae Young, and they can't score on the other end.
Yeah, apparently Trae Young is making people revisit how overrated some said he was after the first year and a half of that draft. Can't play defense. He's too small. He's this. He's that. He's answered the dinner bell in crunch time so far in a super young career. So no pun intended, I guess, but maybe a little better than we kind of gave him. The analytics folks gave him credit for after year one.
Well, and I think part of it, he's gotten better. And 2, Atlanta has surrounded him with the pieces to allow him to play the way you got a roll man in Clint Capella, who's had a monster year. You've got shooters at every other position. I mean, John Collins is kind of the one that doesn't necessarily fit there. He's be interesting to see what happens to him after the season, but he's a good player, and they can use him in stretches. So you brought in all the free agents. The guys they drafted are good fits around Trae as well. So there are definitely some flaws to the team, and they're not a championship contender right now, but from where they were, the strides they've made, they've done a good job, I think, constructing that roster to help Trae make the next step.
Yeah, since I've been the butt of a lot of jokes here as of late with the Dodgers being bad and the Lakers struggling, I will take a second to backpack because I love Deandre Hunter. I'm an ACC guy. I watched him a ton. One of the same reasons I like Brogdon from 3 or 4 years ago. Just watch a lot. I never understood the floor being close to the ceiling argument with him when he was drafted, right? They kind of wondered about his game offensively. Deandre Hunter is going to be a very, very good pro.
It's always interesting when guys come in with the reputation of a certain kind of archetype and they evolve into something different. Like, he's not the way he played the start of this year, and once he got back to healthy a little bit, kind of a different player than what we thought he was going to be coming out. So
you know what I don't understand? I don't understand, like, in basketball in particular, we're so quick to cap a guy if his deficiency is shooting. You know one thing you can always do? Be a better shooter.
See, the interesting thing about that is, like, it's just so individual. There are guys that come in with, they can't handle the ball, they can't shoot the ball particularly well, and they never get better at those. Whether they work on it or they don't, it just never clicks for them. There's a certain level of their cap. Other guys that come in and they make massive strides in those areas. That's why the draft is so hard to project, is because it's impossible to really project the development timelines of these guys just based on the small sample size that we have of college and a little bit of pre-college stuff.
As long as there's Anthony Tolliver and he's still playing in the NBA, where he started versus what he's known for now, I'm always going to believe you can get better as a shooter, right?
Yeah. And I recap Anthony. That was my sports writing class my senior year in college. I did a profile on Anthony and the path he took, and you're absolutely right. Just the work ethic, and again, if you've got a little bit of ability in that area and you put the work in it, the improvement can continue as long as you keep putting in that work. It's hard to pinpoint which of those guys have that ability to overcome their weaknesses and make them strengths coming out of college.
So if Jacob Padilla takes his summer hat off and he puts on his high school coaching hat, how are you utilizing, especially now with the live period, because it's gonna get kind of hectic, right? And some of your bigger tournaments are coming up in July. June is one of those months that's kind of used more for the actual high school, which I kind of like. Yeah. Just playing in both worlds. How would Coach Padilla at a high school utilize June?
Yeah, kind of like we talked about last week a little bit. Just I'd use it to, one, try to figure out kind of whether it's the fourth or fifth starter, whether it's the sixth or seventh man. Try to kind of figure out your depth situation. You already know kind of who your core guys are coming back. June is a good time to figure out which of those other guys are ready to make a step forward and help you that maybe haven't previously.
How would you kind of gauge? Because I think this is interesting, especially as I look at a couple of high schools in particular where guys, just almost what we were talking about, that have had some predetermined roles that are going to have to kind of evolve a little bit. I look at a guy like O'Malley at prep, right? Going to be inserted into the starting lineup, probably going to have to show a little bit more versatility. A guy like, let's use Charlie Davis at Westside. Historically a great summer player, very good shooter, probably used the summer for some. How do you know, kind of like as a coach, when you're thinking to yourself, okay, in order to do this during the high school season, I may have to make some folks uncomfortable for the short term to get long-term benefits?
Yeah, and that's kind of always the balancing act for the coaches.
Tough, isn't it?
Yeah, trying to figure out how to fit the players and where they're at into what you want to do alongside all the other players. Kind of putting that puzzle together is the key to getting the most out of your team and the key to being a good coach. And you do, like, if you want to get the most out of those guys, you've got to go to a little bit of where they are and understand what their strengths are and what they need to do to be able to have success. And they've obviously got to kind of take care of the non-negotiables on their end and do everything you're asking of them. But there's got to be a little bit of wiggle room there where you let a guy go make a play and maybe make a mistake, especially in June. That's like in June, especially when nobody's keeping track of records. It doesn't ultimately matter, the wins and losses. Let a kid go make a mistake here and there and try to learn from it. Like, okay, I'm not quite there. I can't be doing that. But find out the ways where, hey, I can have success doing this. So that's kind of obviously it's interesting in June. Sometimes the head coaches are there. Sometimes it's the assistants, and the coaches are over there just watching, kind of try to get a feel for it. You go back and forth with that. It's just a really good evaluation month to try to figure out the trajectory of your program and the kids that you have. And especially it's good this year coming back after having a full spring, whereas last year is kind of a weird, obviously, with the AU in June and then some summer stuff in July. And we got a good 2 months of spring ball for kids to go out and try to take strides. And now they're bringing back what they did during the spring to their high school team in June.
Let me ask you some of kind of some of the usual suspects, and you can stay in Class A or Class B. Who do you think can least afford, of the successful teams, right? Who do you think can least afford, or has to, whether it's by necessity or because they've lost pieces, can least afford to resemble what they did last year or how they played last year if they want to have success this year?
It's probably more north. You can't really.
That is probably the easy answer, right?
They don't have any more Hunter Salas's or St. Thomas's running around. They've got some good players, but they don't have guys that can go win that way. And they've got a couple of transfers coming in. They've got a lot of young guys that are looking to take the step forward. So they're going to have to play a different way. You're going to have to play through Jason Moore. And we've talked about that in the past where he's kind of waited his turn, and now it's time for him to step up and show what he can do as kind of the featured guy. So Millard North, I think, is probably the best answer for that. Because even a team like Prep, like they're going to play the way they play. Their personnel change, but the way Josh Ludke teaches basketball and what he does in his program, that doesn't really change. Spread, pick and roll, spacing, good decision making.
You know what I'll be curious to see with them? Can they play as good of on-the-ball defense? I felt like those guys defensively were vastly underappreciated last year. They were because, we saw them at the end of the year in some of these high-flying up and down. But for 4/5 of 80% of the time, those guys guard, and they change the way that you can play at the point.
And one guy,
Justin
Prep,
City.
While we're on Prep, Martel Evans is the guy that's going to have to step into that role. And, man, the kid is a freak athlete. So he's a guy. He's a guy that's going to have to make a big leap here. JV starter 2 years ago. This last year, he was kind of the backup point guard. Played almost every game, I think. Got some good minutes in some big games, too. Still got to continue to work on the shooting and a little bit of the handle, kind of polish up the skills a little bit. But in terms of just pure athleticism and size and strength at the point guard spot, he's a guy that I think is going to be important to establishing that identity on the ball, kind of at the point of attack, really trying to take away what opposing teams want to do. So that's another kid I think that you mentioned Casey O'Malley. I think Martel Evans also is going to have to take a big leap for Prep.
How about if you jump over to Bellevue West, a team that's who I would probably rank preseason number one, but should be a lot different than they have been the last couple of years, but we'll still have every opportunity to be good, right? Another team will be vastly different.
Well, and they got a few transfers in as well at multiple positions there. So be interesting to see how the newcomers kind of mesh with the guys coming back from last year. And we talked about how Josiah Dosler is going to have to step into that point guard role, and he's going to have to continue to kind of feel out the game where he needs to score, where he needs to make plays for others. William Kyle, is he ready to take a step and be more of an impact player on offense versus where he's mostly a defender and then go get kind of finish at the rim on pick and roll type stuff or runouts? So it is. They've got a lot of pieces. They've got TK Barnett coming over from Bellevue East, Jaden Cassio-Jensen from Fremont, and Jacob Arope from Omaha South coming over. So they're going to have some depth once again. You add those guys to everything they've got coming back. It'll be interesting to see kind of how that rotation shakes out.
Yeah, two of the better shooters, at least on paper, with Cassio-Jensen and Jaden Jackson.
Yeah.
Two guys with a pretty sweet stroke.
And then Evan Inselman, same thing. He's going to have to step up and play a bigger role this year. I figured he's probably the starter at the 4 there alongside William Kyle. So got some versatility. They've got some depth. It's just a matter of how are things going to click this year with guys in new roles.
Big fan or not so much, or just going to play the hand that you're dealt with so much movement at the high school level within schools?
Yeah, I think you just have to
you don't complain much, do you? You
no.
just kind of
yeah, like the whole transfer. Like I do what you need to do. Do what you feel like you need to do to give yourself the best chance to succeed, to have a good experience, all that type of stuff. Like I'm not worked up about recruiting and transfers and all that type of stuff. I don't really care. Just I'll figure out where everybody lands and then start kind of throwing out the rosters and assembling my thoughts after that.
Before we move on real quick to kind of cap or maybe preview a little bit of the Shrine Bowl crossover sports for football, knowing what you know in terms of personnel, going into the next season, you have to rank them. What will end up being the most important, talent or continuity/chemistry?
Whew. I'll go with talent here. West Side, we've seen the continuity.
They'll be the epitome
continuity.
of chemistry and continuity.
And are those guys ready to make the leap that they weren't this year and be in the top number one option with Chandler, Reggie, Tate, those guys stepping into the roles? Can they consistently perform well enough to lead the team to all the way? And that's kind of like continuity is really important. You've got to clear the threshold of talent though too, where there were some teams that had some continuity coming back that we thought, oh, they've got a chance to be pretty good, and they ended up being, whether it's just okay or they struggled or went through a rough patch and got to go in at a different time, whatever it is. Continuity is important, but you have to have the guys that can go carry you. We saw this past Hunter Salas, Chucky Hepburn, their teams were there. They were the ones standing there at the end. And prep was probably kind of the answer for the continuity, but also I think talent-wise,
had enough talent too.
They made the talent leap too. It wasn't just that they brought everybody back. All those guys they brought back made a significant step forward. They put in the work in the offseason. We talked about kind of the first pick stuff they did to kind of take themselves to the new level. So it wasn't necessarily just because of continuity.
I was really surprised by the athleticism that they showed, especially in the backcourt with Buckley and City. I mean, guys were different players.
Exactly. So that's kind of where I point to the talent side of it, kind of. That's where you start with, and then you start looking at the continuity within those teams that have the most talent. And there'll be a team or two that mesh really well and probably upset a team with better talent. That happens every year. But I think ultimately for the teams that are going to be there at the end, I start with the talent and then hope they can figure everything out from there.
Interesting. Let's change gears for just a quick second and talk Shrine Bowl coming up this Saturday. There are a lot of talent still playing in this game. It's almost, I feel like the last couple of years, guys have kind of made it a point to play. I think I kind of like that. I don't know how much the college coaches love it, but for me, especially doing the broadcasts every year and covering high school sports, it meant something to us as former guys that played in it. I kind of like the fact that a lot of the who are playing.
Yeah, that's kind of always the deal with the timing of it. Some of these guys so close to going off to the next level, especially the guys that are playing Division I. Those are always the toughest guys to get there because of when they have to enroll, when they have to report. Some guys enroll early, so you lose those guys. So it is always interesting, and it's cool to see when guys are able to make it back or push off, moving on to go play in that game.
Anybody? Well, I'm sure I don't want you to sing. Hey, don't be mad at him. He covers a lot of you guys, so don't take it personal. Anybody in particular that you want to see play against other good competition, or guys that you felt like? I mean, because we covered all classes during our preps post game during the fall. Any guys that you want to see make kind of the jump to see how they handle overall talent?
I'll flip that question to you because I haven't studied the rosters too closely.
Well, so there's a couple in particular, and I'm glad he's back healthy. And he's a guy you know. You know who I'm kind of excited for because he gets a chance to get back out there and play is Tyler LeClaire from Bennington. He's a guy that I think we were both big fans of. When he got hurt, even though they were besieged by injuries, it seemed like all season, Bennington had done a really good job of kind of the next man up.
Yep.
I really am excited to watch him play and kind of, I think, get back out there. He strikes me as the type of person that loves to play. I'm curious to see a guy like Jack Mcdonald from Bellevue West because I think he was an elite level player at the high school level. I'm excited to kind of see him get a chance to showcase his game. This is a perfect game for him because He takes no plays off.
Yeah.
And it's an all-star game, but you don't have to worry about his – I mean, he's going to be a guy that's going to maximize. I'm excited for a guy like Hunter Push from Omaha North who has missed a season that I felt like it was kind of a steal for South Dakota without the ability to camp last summer due to the pandemic and missing an off season. Really excited to see a guy like Cole Payton.
Yeah.
Who, all biased aside, is pretty electric. Right? He's just one of those guys that I'm curious to see what the staff thinks when you get to see a specimen like him up close. He's different.
Yeah.
The Kate Habermans of the world. Those guys are. It's just a special group of guys that I think played the game the right way. The Jack McDonald. I mean, a lot of these guys, right? But in particular, guys like Payton and Haberman, I think will be pretty exciting.
Yeah, and I know Tavion. Talk about Cole Payton going to be throwing to some guys that hopefully Tavion Thompson will get a chance to get out there and show what he can do.
You've liked him a lot. If he turns out to flourish, I'm giving you all the credit because you like T-Squared.
I'm a little biased. I helped coach him last summer in basketball, and I felt so bad for him because he had a really good summer. He made a huge leap on the basketball court, and I thought he was going to play a big role for Southeast this year, and then he goes and gets hurt in the last game of the season, last play or whatever it was, and had to miss the whole season. So I'm glad that he's able to hopefully be helped back to full strength now and able to go out there and show what he can do.
You like the nighttime game?
Yeah, I mean, it's always good to get
kind of cool.
Yeah, give them that experience, get the lights out there, and go out and play, especially in the summer. Spring, once get a little bit warmer, probably wait a little bit later in the day.
So for you, we've got locker room camp this week with high school football. We've got the Lindenwood camp Saturday morning. You've got the Jamboree for locker room camp. You've got the Shrine Bowl Saturday night. You have Summer League starting next week with high school camps.
I'll be in a gym Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday next week. Is coming.
Let's start with Friday. What's Friday for JP?
I think we got kind of waiting to get the schedule. I think this week is the Millard North deal.
It is.
So need to get the schedule for that. But I think that kicks it off. And then we got the Bryan tournament. Galen Goley taking over that program now, kind of hosting the tournament for the first time.
I'm excited for him. I'm a big Gully guy. I love Coach O'Donnell, so it's a little bittersweet. But,
yeah.
It is what it is with that transition. But Coach Gully is a guy that's he's just a likable guy that is for kids, and he's a fantastic player in the Metro.
And obviously had a lot of success there at Bryan. Everybody around there knows him. I think he's going to be able to connect with kids well. He's been coaching last few years, kind of dipping his toes in, so kind of preparing for this, working his way up to this. So hopefully he's able to kind of make some strides there, because it is cool when you see program greats come back and coach the team and hopefully have some success there.
So you got Friday, Saturday, Sundays in the gym. Monday you're back in the gym because we're starting.
Got the Monday Night Varsity League, and also DC West has a team camp out there, and they invited me out there, so I got scheduled for that. So I'm gonna have to try to figure out a schedule for that. And then Tuesday is the Lincoln Supreme League. So
DC, it's funny you bring DC West up. That they're going to be a fun team, I think, to watch. I watched them play. Was it Ron Colley or Platteview? I think it was Platteview on a Saturday afternoon late, and I felt like they had a lot of pieces, especially young, that were going to be kind of make them fun to watch. It kind of became a destination spot over the last couple of years quietly.
And they do
in that class.
Yeah, they do a good job out there of investing in their basketball talent, getting kids into summer ball, getting kids out there for workouts and all that type of stuff. Because at a school like DC West, you don't have a giant talent pool to draw from. So you got to take what you can get and really invest in those kids and coach them up. And I think that's what they've done a good job over there. You got Brody Travis is going to be their leading scorer coming back this year as a senior. They've got some younger guys coming up there. Saw a few of their freshmen play this weekend down at the NBDA Freshman Tournament. Did some good things. So
I think the world of Coach Travis as well. So not about his kids.
Yeah.
I like those guys too, but it started with being a fan.
Yeah, a lot of good people over there at DC West.
Just good folks. So, hey, before we wrap this one up, next week's podcast, we're going to talk to Coach Reeder. I guess I can call him Coach Reeder, and really see the growth and development in Lincoln. Continue to kind of hit on that as that evolution continues. What were some of the closing thoughts that you thought was seeing? Because Lincoln's league will start next Tuesday.
Yeah.
Some of the closing thoughts of some of the young guys that you saw at the freshman tournament.
Yeah, well, Lincoln Southwest won the whole thing, playing with a team primarily.
Like that segue that I gave you?
Yes, incoming freshmen. You've got Chuck Love, 2025, Braden Frager, Jackson Carpenter's little guard that I was really impressed with, Kavion Reynolds, and other. Like their closing five was basically 4 incoming freshmen and then maybe one 2024 kid, and they were playing against teams with a lot of 2024 kids as their main team. So it was really impressive the way, and they played Southeast in the championship game. Southeast has Tay Moore, Kendall Hinton is transferred over there now. We've talked about them previously with the 402 Chaos team. And they got some good kids. Trayvon Gray had a good game, shot the ball well. So that was tough. Southwest really impressed me the way they were playing physical against those older kids and able to pull it away in a close one. So a lot of good kids down there. It's a fun tournament, but keep an eye out for Southwest over the next few years for sure.
Yeah, I remember last year we talked that if they continued on that start that they had, that we felt like they were a year early.
Yeah.
They kind of tapered off with some injuries, in particular to Ryland Smith, but that's a school that folks have their eyes on for what's coming down the road.
And I think you're going to see these kids playing with their varsity team in this month, especially with a couple with Ben Hunziker and Ryland still coming back from their injury. So you have a chance. These kids will have a chance to show that, hey, can we help you this year as freshmen?
Hey, not just some run-of-the-mill podcast covering high school sports, man. One of the best in the business. Jacob Padilla, we try to get everybody covered. I'm ODB. We'll be back next week talking Nebraska development and growth. It's Nebraska Preps postgame.